Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Generation Red, the kettle corn of Husker fan podcast, where we try to be sweet, but at times we get salty. I am your host, Ken.
And I am your other host, Scott.
And as you can see, we have some guests in the studio tonight. 3 of them share my last name, along with, of course, the co-host. And one of them does not, but he is sharing the studio with us, and that would be Mr. Jake right there in the middle, otherwise known as Texas Toast, from deep in the heart of Texas. Yeah, that place. He can tell you what, Longhorns look good, and that really pains me to say. Pains me to say. We're here to just have a little bit of fun. I want you to meet some of the other guys in the room. We're glad to have Jake, but of course, right next to him, to his right, would be the next oldest son, TJ, the one who dealt with Scott's crap most of his life.
Yep.
And of course, then my youngest son is on the other side of Jake. That would be Levi. He's enjoying football, finally getting to enjoy football with the family. And of course, you know, Scott. And then next to Scott there, you have Josiah, or as we call him, Joey. We're going to talk about some memories, some stuff like that before we kind of get into talking about UNI. First memories, guys. I know for me, the first game I ever saw was the 1984 Orange Bowl when Nebraska went for 2 to try to win their first national championship. I became a fan for life on that night, living in Arizona. So I was a 16-year-old kid. So that's my first memory of. We'll start with you, Tim. What is your first memory as a Husker fan, or first game that you remember seeing?
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of interesting. I don't really remember any real games as being my first game, but I know my earliest memories would be going to the spring games with you.
Yeah.
Particularly when we went that one year and they had the whole conference beforehand where Ron Brown was speaking. And then so we got to go to that and then got tickets to go to the spring game immediately after that.
So Boys to Men.
Yeah, Boys to Men, I think.
Yeah, that's what it was called, or not Boys to Men, but Men of Character or something like that. I don't remember. Go ahead, Joey.
Like Freedmen or something like
Freedmen.
that.
Freedmen.
Freedmen,
Yeah.
Freedom Conquest. I remember.
Yeah, we all got
that for some reason.
got free
Even though I never
Bibles.
went.
They gave us like
Yeah.
living translation or something of chronological Bible, which was kind of cool. That's a great memory, Joey. I forgot about that.
I never went. I wasn't ever old enough. I just.
I was just TJ and I.
Yep.
I
It
just
would have
have a
been, you and
concrete
TJ, and I
memory.
think Andre was with us.
Oh,
one year, and then like Roy Halou was one of the guys that spoke.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And then like the Katinas were the ones that did the music.
I don't remember the music.
So yeah, that was kind of cool. How about you, Scott? Well, I know you've kind of talked about it on the podcast before, but one of your first memories watching Husker football.
Yeah, my first memory would have definitively been the 2005 Alamo Bowl against Michigan, where the game kind of ended in a lateral madness where Michigan almost pulled off, 17 to 18 different lateral passbacks, which I remember getting in trouble because I was like excited for that to happen. I knew I was supposed to cheer for Nebraska, but at the time I didn't understand the whole concept of like,
right,
at this particular moment, if they were on fire, I would not pee on them. Like I'm supposed to treat it like that. And so I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, go. And Dad's like, no. Oh. And Grandpa was there. He's like, no.
And is so gentle, Grandpa. Wait, no, I don't think we should do that.
No, we're not about that here. I was like, well, that was pretty cool though. I was like, yeah, maybe tomorrow that would be cool, but right now that was very not cool. But that was pretty much my first memory truly. I mean, I guess this not really a Husker memory. I do remember family coming over or friends from church coming over for a game against Penn State or something like that.
Yeah.
But we didn't watch the game. We just spent all night playing hide and seek in the backyard with a bunch of church kids.
Well, I remember watching the game, 40-7 destruction by Penn State. Oh,
Yeah.
that one was painful. Levi, your first memory.
I don't have a specific game. I just remember 2008 being like the first year I really properly paid attention to football and paid attention to the games.
The
But
first Bo Pelini year when he's flipping out on the sidelines
Yeah.
every other play.
that's
Yeah.
what I remember the most, honestly, is Bo flipping out.
Better times.
Better times, yeah, for for certain. Joey, how about you?
So mine's a little weird. So definitively like my first like concrete memory that I can remember who we were playing and how it went was it was either 2008 or 2009 Gator Bowl when we played Clemson.
Okay.
I remember that because we were at grandma's and I was a foodie. I love food. I still love food. And we were having soup day because it was a cold day. And
Mhm.
we were there at grandma's just eating all kinds of soup, watching the Gator Bowl. So that's what I
Yeah.
remember.
It was Dabo Sweeney's.
But
That was his year that he was the interim coach, and they made him the permanent coach after that game.
Has it been that
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been that
Yeah.
long.
long?
And I remember that. That's an interesting memory, Joey. I'll let you finish. I'm sorry, but I
Mhm.
remember that too because I stayed home.
Mhm.
I wasn't feeling well. I don't remember what it was. I had a fever or something, and I also know that was shortly after, we had to bury Grandpa.
Mhm.
So that was kind of a rough week, and being able to go, and then finding out that Bo Pelini's dad had passed that week too,
Oh yeah.
and saying, I bet they found each other in heaven to watch the game, and I can't remember who it was. One of Grandpa's friends said, "No, I'm pretty sure Gerald did not watch the game with Anthony because I'm sure there was some language that Gerald would not have appreciated even up in heaven." So what else were you going to say, Joey? I'm sorry if I
but-
stopped you.
My first like real memory that has stuck with me forever is it was honestly in the grand scheme of things kind of an uneventful game, but it was the 2013 game against Northwestern where we pulled off the crazy Hail Mary
Hail
at
Mary,
the end.
yeah.
And oh my gosh.
I was there.
Western
that-
catch.
Yep.
The Western catch.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I remember that. I was there.
that was
Oh, dude.
Yep, I was in the south end zone.
So
Mm.
Yep.
you got
Was
just
that
like
the end zone?
Yeah, that was the end
Okay,
zone.
I couldn't remember
Yeah,
which end
there
zone
was
it
not many
was.
people left in the stadium. So
No.
we were hugging and kissing each other or whatever we were doing.
so that was
Sorry.
that like your first like hype moment of like,
that's the first time I think I actually like felt anxiety for the football team. Maybe the other time was 2012 when we played our first revenge game against Wisconsin. I remember that too. Just because we debuted those god awful ugly
God.
uniforms, and I wanted
Pretty
to.
bad.
Even
Still
as a-
want to gouge my eyes out
Even
when
as
I
a
see 'em.
12-year-old, I was just like, gross.
Yeah. Well, Mr. V says if there isn't any foul language in football, are you actually watching football? Which, for those of you listening to the podcast, we're streaming this live on StreamYard, and there's comments coming in from our viewers. And thank you, Mr. V. You are correct. If there isn't foul language, are you really watching football?
what
cool.
about you, Jake?
Yeah.
2004 season, unfortunately, was the first. I was 9 years old. That was when I first started to get into it. I mean, talk about a terrible time to get into Nebraska football. But I grew up, the family being really into the sport and whatnot. And then I remember the 2005 Colorado game where we beat them 33-3 or something.
Yeah.
And,
Restore the order
Yep.
game.
And I remember them, the SWAT team in Colorado or in Boulder, clearing out the student section, and how I thought that was like, from that point on, I'm like, these fans are the scum of college football. They are below us. They're the worst people ever. So ever since then, I was like, no matter what team, like even Texas, like horns down, like I do have to live with those people now. Like Colorado fans are the worst. So I don't care what anyone says. Like Colorado will always be the most hated team for us. So yeah. And then after 2004, I've been to many games. I was at the 2008 Colorado game where I think it was Alex Henry kicked that 57-yard field goal, and one guy in the south end zone goes, "All right, on count of three, let's blow, let's blow wind into the sails of Alex Henry to make this field goal." And so everyone in our section, like blew really hard and made it. We're like, yeah. So that was fun. That was awesome.
So what you're saying is y'all blew.
I mean, I'm not saying that we
I'm
made
not
the
gonna
field
say
goal.
that either.
I'm sure
Right.
Alex Henry got blown at
Yeah,
least once that day.
Yeah, there you go.
All righty. Well, he said it. I didn't have to. This is a good thing. For those of you who are watching, we appreciate it. Thank you. For those of you listening, thank you for downloading the podcast. You can follow our show at Gen Red Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. Also, Generation Red on your favorite podcast app. Subscribe to that. Leave us a like and a review. It helps our show and helps get it out there to more Husker fans. Also, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and join our conversation by interacting with us in the live chat tonight, or leaving us a comment on the video if you're watching it after it runs live. It just helps more folks find our stuff as well, and we'd really, truly appreciate that. So any other interesting memories in the past? I know for me, going into this season, I was really hoping that we were going to be seeing a team that would help us start to remember what the 90s and what the early 2000s or mid 2000s were like with Bo Pelini and going into the Big Ten. And I think we finally have a coach that understands what it means to bring physicality back to football. And that team got tested last night with a team that was willing to be every bit as physical as Nebraska was, because they weren't playing around on that offensive line for sure. So we're going to dive in a little bit into the overall thoughts on the win yesterday. I'll start with you, Levi, since you are the youngest. What were your overall thoughts from what happened last night in the stadium?
Honestly, I feel like offensively we're beautiful. Dylan just does not come off as a freshman at all. He conducts himself like he's been doing it for a decade. Defensively, I definitely feel like we're a little slower than normal. It was a little disappointing to see, but all in all, it was a beautiful game.
All right. How about you, Joey? What were your overall impressions after watching the game last night?
I have started drinking the Roulade, but I was very apprehensive the last few weeks because I was just like, every time I've bought into this team, it's failed. There was a very unhealthy mindset that I gave myself for a long time. I was born in 2001. So I was like, yep, I'm the bad luck charm. As soon as I came into the picture, we immediately stopped being national championship contending.
Way to go, Josiah.
Yeah, way to go, me.
There's some positive self-talk.
but yesterday I was like, I finally feel like we're back to the stuff that I'm nostalgic for. Those Pelini days. Like I don't remember a time when we were above average.
Right.
Be like Pelini, like sure, we won tons and tons of games with Pelini. It just wasn't the ones that mattered. So
yeah.
So
Good
Preach,
point.
brother.
So ultimately, while I can look at Pelini's record and be like, I missed that. Do I really? Because like
the curb stompings we got.
We would always get curb stomped somewhere that would just completely derail our chances at any decent postseason bid.
Or we would get stuck in a slobber knocker with a team that we had no business going back and forth with all the
Northwestern,
time.
anybody?
Yeah.
McNeese State.
McNeese State.
Oh my God.
There was one year we
bad.
had kind of a lower scoring game. Oh, I was at the state fair. Who were we playing? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Whatever. Some lower group of 5 school. Yeah, and it was just like I think the final score was like 38-17, and it was just like
that might have been.
Was that Fresno State?
might have been.
Because we were wrestling with them pretty hard for most of the first 2.5 quarters, and then
It would have been
Amir broke it
2012.
open.
It would have been 2012.
Yeah, if it was 2012, then it was after that.
I think
'cause
Derek Carr was the quarterback of Fresno State.
Fresno State.
Let
Yeah,
me look it up.
Because then we
Yeah.
played
I'm
him
gonna
again
Google this.
in Fresno in 2015.
I just remember I was at
And
the
that
state
game went to like 2
fair.
o'clock in the morning. I remember
Yeah,
watching
that
that.
was yeah.
It was miserable.
We were actually in California
Oh,
for
really?
that game because he had just graduated from Marine Corps boot camp.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we were at the hotel. I was listening to it on my tablet while everybody was falling asleep. So I'm like, no, no, you don't fall. If
Yeah.
you don't leave the stadium and you go to a game, then doggone it, you don't.
Oh yeah.
When you're out of town and the only
100%.
option you have is an iPad or whatever, you listen to the game. So
Mhm.
that's what I did. We'll go with you next, TJ. What's your first, or what's your overall take?
Mine was definitely the more pessimistic take. I think offensive, we played very, very strong, but the defense had me worried pretty much the entire game. We started to have a few plays in the second half where I was like, oh, okay, maybe the defense is back. And then they'd immediately go and shoot themselves in the foot again with something stupid. We were having a hard time tackling. It was taking 3-4 guys to bring their rushers down. And there were quite a few passes where I didn't see the defenders react until the ball was already in the receiver's hand.
Right.
So offensively, I don't have a lot to complain about, but defensively, if we play that way again next week, I'm not confident in our outlook.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it as we get farther in, but UNI's first drive was over 10 minutes long.
Yep.
It shouldn't have
Yeah.
taken us that long to shut them down.
Mhm.
And I feel like most of the issue that held UNI back on the offense was them constantly getting penalties and not so much our defense actually stopping them.
Very true. Very true. Moonbot's as usual, because that's all he does. He works and he listens to podcasts on YouTube. So welcome, Moonbot. It's good to see you, Mr. V. Apparently a new viewer. I'm upset I wasn't introduced to this channel earlier. Thank you. That's a huge compliment. Thank you. And then all that's pink. Huh. Oh, she let it. Your favorite daughter and sister is here. Amber, if it weren't for the fact that there were 5 other people in the studio with me, if you just saw this camera angle, there's a lot of people who would wonder exactly what you meant, and that would be really twisted. So, and then, yay, what do you know? He says, hello. Hello.
You can't keep me out of the chat just because
Hello.
I'm here.
Well,
was saying hi
usually
to
you
my
come,
sister.
you come. That's okay. You were saying hi to your sister. That's a good thing. BA Coaches Show, 100%. Yes, you're right. 100%. We're 100% streaming right now. BA. He misses Pelini, and then he also says, "But I don't now with Rule. But until this season, I did miss Bo. In many ways, I did miss Bo as well. What I didn't miss is all those curb stompings at the hands of like Wisconsin and Ohio State and teams like that." Sup, Coach from Moonbot, BA Coaches Show. Defense only give up 3 points. I know you all know that, but just bringing a reminder. Yes, we know. We know. It was a disjointed dominance is what I titled this video on purpose, because it looked a little disjointed, but the score showed dominance. When you don't give up a touchdown, there was some dominance. So you haven't given your overall thoughts yet, have you, Jake? Go ahead.
That's kind of how I felt. Is I'm happy that we can bitch and complain about a 34-3 win.
Yes.
And that, like, it did look terrible. Like the defense, the first 10 minutes. I mean, for this to be my one game, like people were getting pretty upset. I'm like, did I just drive 10.5 hours yesterday to watch them score right now? But as the game went on, I was like, okay, like there's positives to see here in that, like, I'm happy this game happened now when it did.
Yeah.
And Rule said in the post game that he views these 3 games as the preseason. And I kind of liked how he said that. Like, okay, now the real season starts. Like now, like let's kind of nut up or shut up here. And I'm glad that we saw a lot of second stringers too, I think on the defensive side. And so I think there's a lot of positives to take away, but I was too, like when I walked out of the stadium, I'm like, man, I'm frustrated that the defense just did not kind of play up to what we saw the previous week.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, but I mean, we won by 31 points. So it's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
Absolutely. Well, mom's feeling left out or feeling left out. So hello, mother, darling. I probably shouldn't have said mother, should I? That was weird. Hi, honey.
We're not in Alabama, Dad.
No, we're not. Ooh, boy, oh boy. My overall thoughts were exactly, I echo just about everything you guys have said, in that this was just kind of one of those. It's so nice to be able to complain about a 31-point win. It's so nice to look back and go, wow, there's so much that can be fixed, but there's so much that went right. We have a quarterback. I mean, we have a quarterback. Now, this is also, like Coach Rule said, like you pointed out so perfectly, Jake, this is kind of his preseason too. What's it going to be like when the real Big Ten bullets start flying, when they really start bringing pressure into his face? Is he going to be just as quiet, nice and quiet in the pocket like he is now, where he just kind of slides and moves away and steps up and fires darts? Or is it going to be different? Or the deer in the headlights coming? Something tells me they're not.
Yeah.
Something tells me he's going to be just fine. And he's got a good coach that's in his ear all the time in a guy like Glenn Thomas. So, Scott, those are my overall thoughts on the win, was that it was kind of disjointed, but you can't complain about 31 points in the end, right? So go ahead, Scott.
It's kind of what I expected to see. I expected to see our defense kind of sputter, and no matter what our coaching staff was going to do, there's just you can't subconsciously reprogram a person's mind to prioritize this as a less important game.
Yeah.
You're coming off of a high of a win against Colorado, and then you've got what is now a ranked Illinois team coming in on a Friday evening the next week. I mean, there's just a lot that you have to think about going into the game, and you're not really too concerned about playing in Northern Iowa. No matter which way a coach would try and spin it for you, you just can't ignore the facts that you're playing a lesser team, and it was evident. But the thing that I will give them credit for is that they played what Coach Rule thinks and believes that they're playing, which is winning football. They've been talking about this, that there's losing football, winning football, and championship football. And we are absolutely in the position of winning football, because I could think of teams in the past that would be handed a 10-minute drive, just an absolute demoralizing physical drive that just continues on and on and on for the first drive of the opponent. And I could see teams in the past getting in their own head with that and thinking this is going to be the whole game. Are we going to be able to keep up with them? And they scored their 3 points off of that one drive, and then they never got points the rest of the game. The beginning was a little bit sloppy, and throughout the rest of the game, there was definitely a lot left to be desired. But overall, I think they played winning football. They didn't get stuck in their own heads. They went out there and just played freely and had a lot of fun. I noticed that on the TV, it looked like they were just having fun out there. They were disciplined. They were doing their jobs. They were making sure that they weren't getting too haphazard, but they just looked like a team that was genuinely having fun. I mean, throwing Heinrich Harburg in there in like 3 different packages as a running back, then a quarterback, and then as a wide receiver, like that's just so much fun. And then putting him in there as a true backup, and he managed the game pretty dang well, all things considered. It was a fun game to watch them play winning football. It just felt good. There wasn't a moment, even in that first drive, like that went on for 10 minutes. There wasn't really a moment where I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. This is about to get ugly. I just had this confidence, this feeling that like, yeah, it's going to be ugly, but I don't think they're going to score another point for the rest of the game. Because if I have any belief in what Tony White can do with this defense, is that he's got them coached correctly. He's going He's going to coach them out of this. And that's exactly what we saw. Yeah, they scored. They got 300 yards of total offense, but 300 total yards of offense and only 3 points just
awesome.
pays testament. I'm not going to say I told you so, but in our preseason over under game, I had a feeling that we were going to have it. Our offense with a 3-3-5 is just schematically, it is a bend, don't break type of defense. It's a dominant, like Tony White clearly has it in a dominating format, but truly we are bend, don't break. And that's what we saw tonight. We did not break. We bent a lot. We got pushed around a little bit, but we didn't break. And so I will give them credit for that.
But thank God that Rule's our coach and not Bo or Riley or Frost. But I mean, with Bo, you had so many games where you would get up on someone and then something would happen, you'd freak out, and then the whole team got tense. I think with Rule just keeps trying to instill in these guys, like, hey, like once we get a lead, let's keep it and let's just finish out the game and not get hurt and get healthy. And it's not like it's citing fourth quarter football, and he said, I want it to be boring. He said that in the press conference. Yeah. And I'm trying to shift my mind to let's just score 30 points in the fourth quarter and it'd be 60-3 or whatever. But that's not his game plan. No. So as fans, that's something I'm trying to get used to. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I hate boring football. But at the same time, if boring football wins, I'll take it. But I can't lie. I miss the days when our offensive lineman could look at the guy across him who might be a second-team All-American and go, "We're running the ball right here. Let's see if you can stop it." I do miss those days. Yeah, maybe they're coming back.
And
maybe
I think,
not.
And I think that's what we'll get when we get to championship football. I don't think we can afford to play high-flying, crazy adrenaline pumping 60-point. Total games quite yet, because we're just in winning football. We secure a good enough lead. Now let's just get experience for those guys, because there's guys on the depth chart that I'm sure Rule's grand scheme is there are guys on this depth chart right now that are going to be in championship games. So I got to get them the experience right now.
Yep. The youth, getting the youth on the field last night was great. Getting the youth on the field against UTEP and even late in the Colorado game. Getting them meaningful snaps, used to the speed of college football at this level is going to pay dividends, especially if we get some dudes dinged up. Like Jamari Butler didn't play. Micah Mazuka didn't play. That was a coach's decision, was a rather cryptic explanation, which means Micah needs to get his head. Together. Yeah, he needs to hear the big pop and pull his head out from where it's at right now. So it's just... I like where we're at. Yeah, I really do. I like the fact that we have a coach that's not going to, number one, he's not going to panic in a tense situation like he might have felt toward the end of that first quarter. He's not going to panic. And if he doesn't panic, his team's not going to panic. And I think that's a lot of what happened. Will Compton said it when he talked to Bo on the Bussin' with the Boys episode.
That's what I was
where
referring
he said
to.
There were times when you'd lose your stuff. And we started losing ours. We really weren't sure whether you were going to stay hinged or not.
Well, he was talking about that Wisconsin game, and I think it was 2014, his last year. And we go up 17-0, and I wanted to go streaking, but unfortunately, I didn't want to embarrass everyone around me. And then there was a personal foul or something, and then all of a sudden he just loses his mind. And then the team reacted, and Wisconsin goes ahead and rushes for 400 something rushing yards or some crazy stat. And I mean, with this, I'm very interested to see his play calling in those close games and those tense moments, because I felt last season that he could have done a lot better, managing the game. But I also think he has the players this season. He's confident. Last year with his roster, with the Scott Frost Wonder roster that he left us, I don't think that. Sorry, I try to get my shots when I can. I don't think that Rule was confident with what he had last year offensively. I mean, we saw that he had to change everything. But I'm really interested to see in closer games what he's going to do. So
I agree.
Yep. So why don't we move on to the next topic from last night's game, and that would be just one thing during the game, one idea. A takeaway, if you will, because we're trying to do something a little different this year when we're covering games. We're just kind of not really worried too much about the minutia, the stats, and all the analysis to go with that. But if you were to pick one thing, one play, one person, one player, one decision, whatever the case it is, what was the one thing from that game that you took away from it? And we'll start with you, Jake.
The one thing, I think the defensive, either the scouting report was bad or the game plan is bad, because Rule talked about during the week about how they were just going to run the ball. I mean, they were like throwing the ball around the yard like early on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what are we doing? But I also wonder if they were playing a very base level defense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that the tackling wasn't as good. But defensively, I definitely was worried. But as the game went on at halftime, I felt like they adjusted better in the second half. And I'm trying to think of a moment. Sorry. I think the moment was we were talking before the pod about how when their starting quarterback got hurt and looked like a limp dead noodle on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when the guy got a concussion on our sideline practically. The training staff is over there. And then the quarterback's just rolling around. He looked dead. And I'm like, is anyone going to help this poor bastard? And then finally they pulled him off the field. And I think that was a really key moment, because that was like end of the third, early fourth quarter. When the backup got in, it was kind of a little more deer in the headlights. Like that quarterback, I don't know whose name was starting quarterback. I mean, that was his Super Bowl. I mean,
he was playing good.
We're frustrated with the defense, but he was playing a really good game.
He was their leading rusher. Aiden Dunn was. As much as they ran the ball, he had 11 carries for 49 yards.
Okay.
So, and that's not something they were known for at this point this season.
No,
those
he
two
had
big
20.
old backs.
He had 20
yeah.
total rushing yards for the whole season up to this game.
So, that was good. I like that takeaway. Scott, we'll hit you. What do you think? What's the thing that stuck out to you?
I would say that it was. This is going to be kind of a goofy one, but can you have a more beautiful interception possible? Like, if I'm sitting there going, okay, what does Dylan Raiola's first interception look like? I would have imagined it as just some he finally makes his freshman mistake. He throws the ball just in the worst spot possible behind a receiver with just an open free safety, and he's just got Green in front of him, and he takes it, 30, 40 yards down the field before Dylan Raiola himself tackles him. That was kind of how I imagined it. But throwing it, 45 yards down the field to, was that Jalen Lloyd?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jalen Lloyd. I mean, it was a 50-50 ball. They both had possession of the ball going down to the ground. Like, of all of the ways to have an interception happen, down to fingertip grip, I couldn't ask for a better interception for his first interception. There was nothing there was a little bit, if he would have just thrown it a little bit like this or a little bit like that, if it was a little bit this way or a little bit that way, it probably would have helped the situation a little bit more. But I think it was good for him to have his first interception then. And then I also thought it was kind of interesting that that was like the last play he played.
Mm-hmm.
And then Harburg kind of took over the show from that point on. So my takeaway is that it's good that Raiola got his first INT out of the way. It wasn't in a big moment in a big game. Right. He got it out of the way, and in such a way that they can show him on the film, like, hey, look at that. That really wasn't that bad. 50-50 ball, and Jalen just didn't come down with it. So, don't beat yourself up too much with that. So, that's how I felt. That was a good one.
That's good. Great takeaway. Dylan addressed that directly when he was asked in the post-game press conference about it, and he said, that's probably on me. He said, I put too much air under it. I left it up there. I should have thrown it and let Jalen run under it, because I think if he throws that inside the hash marks instead of toward the outside and floated it, I think Jalen takes it and scores. So, but that was a great takeaway. How about you, Lee, or Joey? What was the one takeaway from the game that grabbed your attention?
Honestly, a really key takeaway that I took from the game is we gotta stop underestimating like our opponents because we went into this game like, oh, it's just some FCS school, we'll knock them over. Which, yeah, we did smoke them in the end, but you gotta treat them evenly because I'm sorry, my first game that I ever went to was unfortunately 2022, the North Dakota game. That was painful. And
as painful a win as we've ever watched because it shouldn't have been that way. Yeah.
Honestly, one of the ones that I'll argue was more painful to watch, and this was when I was 9. 2010, we played against South Dakota State, and it was like
ugly.
It was like 17, like 12 or something stupid like that. And that was just pain. And I was 9 years old, like, and even I was like seeing the flaws. And but I was really happy with what I saw yesterday because, like, ultimately there was some mistakes. Exactly what Scott said. I'm glad that Dylan got to have his human moment because I feel if he went for another game without a turnover, honestly, the ego could start growing there.
Could.
Because that's always happened. I feel like a lot of our downfalls in the past have been having our culture unchecked and just like guys just having these massive toxic egos, and then that translates to the field, and like that's where you had like so many spotty like random moments of just fights like in the 2010s, like Randy Gregory, like he
ran a little hot.
So
a little bit. It was awesome.
And let me clarify, you all were at the game yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was watching on TV, so I have a completely different perspective.
Sure.
Yep.
You're fine. Your perspective is good. I appreciate it.
I have a completely different perspective, but I liked what I saw. I had a bunch of games side by side, and I will not lie, Nebraska versus UNI, it was like watching gladiators duel each other compared to the 3 other games I was watching.
Smacking around each other.
Colorado State was like watching 2 headless chickens fight each other with lightsabers.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I like it was a really ugly game.
Oh, it was so bad. Like, it looks like on paper Colorado smoked them. No, it was
like I said, scum. Absolute scum.
Absolute scum.
They don't deserve football.
Nope.
No, they don't deserve football. I love it.
Yeah, they're not going to win that many more games this year.
TJ, what were your main takeaway?
Honestly, for me, I know you said we don't really want to get into the minutia of the statistics and whatnot,
No, you're fine. Bring a stat in there.
We had 0 offensive penalties that game. Compared to last week where we had 9 offensive penalties against Colorado. Now, granted, some of those were just the refs trying to do Colorado a favor, but there were quite a few legitimate, particularly quite a few holding calls on us last week that were absolutely our fault. And we got through a clean game this week with 0 offensive penalties, minimal defensive penalties. We played a really, really clean game.
4 penalties for 44 yards. And those were all on defense. So I hadn't noticed that. That's a great stat. Thank you for paying attention. I was too busy being pissed off at the defense. You had something I think that grabbed your attention, Joey, that you wanted to say. Go ahead.
So on TV I don't know how sports betting works, but this is just my conspiracy theory. I've noticed this in so many college football games in the last 3 weeks. It's always very clean game, and then fourth quarter, the bullshit calls start coming in.
Yep.
And I'm just like, okay, so like this team has virtually no chance of winning. Like, what are you doing? Like, and then they just automatically stop as soon as the team that they're trying to help scores.
Mhm.
So it's like, I know like some bets can be complicated. Like,
Mhm.
this team wins, but the other team gets 7 points. Like, I know some bets can be like that, but
Yep.
but I was
Sure.
just like that it was just ridiculous. And on TV even, like, if you watch an entire fourth quarter, like the TV coverage, the freaking commentators on TV were actually like on our side. They were like,
I haven't watched
what?
the TV yet.
Oh yeah,
so-
A lot of
the
them,
night and day difference between NBC and
Yeah.
the Big Ten crew with I can't remember what the
You
dudes'
mean-
names were.
You mean the NBC crew that expected Colorado to win, and they didn't have any plan of talking about Nebraska the whole game?
Yeah, they had
Basically, yeah,
no
that
Nebraska
crew.
notes.
I threw my hat down the fourth quarter. So damn pissed.
Oh no,
Yeah.
the commentator crew was so good. They were so
They were
I
good.
don't know if they were actually good, if it was just that I was coming off of the overwhelming disappointment of NBC's broadcast. Like
Mhm.
they made sure to show like, here's what's going on at halftime. Here's what was going on with the light show. They were actually like
They were
invested in
highlighting-
what was going on.
They were like really like they were matching our hype. They were like, see, Nebraska fans actually have something to be happy about, and that's pretty freaking cool to see.
Yep.
And I'm like, I like that.
Do you have a main takeaway, Scott? Or did you finish yours,
Yeah.
TJ? Okay.
I already did mine.
Okay. I couldn't
It'd be
remember if you
Levi.
had-
Levi has one.
is last one. See, I started backwards. That's what I did. I screwed up. Go ahead, Levi.
Honestly, I got really lost in the environment of the stadium, but I think just in general for me is the fans. I have not seen Memorial or heard Memorial that fired up in probably my lifetime. Not
Mhm.
since that Michigan game me and you went to, Scott. It was just
Yeah.
it's
That
been
was a
great
really- that
hearing
was a
the
really good
fan
one.
backing, and I think that's been my takeaway so far this season. It's just having Nebraska back in the national conversation on big media and
Mhm.
stuff.
And the fact that the student section wasn't as full as early as it was against Colorado, but it was still
Yeah.
pretty full up to a half an hour before the game. It was almost completely full. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that's unusual. Usually they're running it. They're like Wisconsin student section. They're showing up about halfway through the first quarter. So that was one of my takeaways, was the crowd for sure. The other takeaway for me, the main one for me, and three of you have this person in your MVP category as well, but it's just watching Dylan Raiola play the game at a level that a 19-year-old kid shouldn't be able to play the game at. That was, and I know he's not played real I'd say this: I think he played a tougher defense last night than he played the week before.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think he might have even played a slightly tougher defense against UTEP. I mean, Colorado was terrible.
Yeah.
Though it, so my takeaway is just, gosh, he was just surgical. Yeah, it was efficient offense. No punting.
Yeah.
What was it? You that said that it's been since 2000? Somebody told me that it's been since 2000 since Nebraska played a game that they did not have to punt.
I didn't know that. No,
Wow.
that was me.
That's pretty amazing. So that was my takeaway, was just the efficiency of the offense and Dylan running it.
Well, he throws the ball, and I don't have immediate stress, anxiety, PTSD.
Drop back.
Everything
I'm actually
is fine.
confident
Even when he
where it's
snaps-
landing.
when a quarterback can snap the ball
Yeah.
and not actually fumble the ball
Yeah.
at the snap. That's actually really, that's been nice.
That's
So,
kind of a nice
I'll
feeling.
take
so
isn't it?
weird.
it's the
Yeah.
little things that matter, really.
It's yes, it is. Mr. V was asking if we all were at the game or just watching it on a flat screen. Most of us were. Tim answered him, said, yeah, we were at two of us was at home, three of us were in the, and yes, the stadium is a completely different atmosphere. We enjoy going to the stadium for sure. Though there are nights like the Colorado game when, as much as I'd love to have been a part of that atmosphere, I was glad to watch that game at home because I had a voice to be able to podcast with the next day. If I'd have been there, we'd have put this
I'd
thing
have
off for
brain
like a
aneurysm
week.
if I was there.
So
I had the opportunity to go, but then I got sick. So
yeah,
Damn.
that's a bummer.
well, my buddies.
That
He was
is
like,
such a bummer.
he was like, I have tickets, student section. You can just come right with me. I'm like, yeah, please. I love hyped crowds.
Yeah,
Yep,
I agree
that
with
would be
you.
the
That
best
would be,
one.
it was 2014 Miami.
I'll be
is my
curious.
most treasured memory.
I'll be curious to see. I mean, there's a lot of juice going into this game on Friday, which we'll talk about. But I'll be curious to see when we go to that game, like what level do we see it at? Because I have a feeling it's going to be hype. There's going to be a lot of
sellout. It's going to be nuts.
400
We're gonna be
sellout, a
nuts.
top 25, top 25 showdown under the lights. Like, there's just so many things going on that Friday. We are the game on Friday that everybody's going to be watching in the nation.
Yep,
it's going to be crazy.
Isn't it crazy how many people are talking about like us now? Isn't that weird?
It feels
Isn't
so
that
good.
nice?
it's almost scary in a way.
Be-
The PTSD for me is kicking hard. 'Cause I'm like, I know we're just going to crap the bed
Right.
here because they're talking too much about us.
See-
It's almost like they're willing it into existence. Let's talk them up so they crap the bed so that we can say, see, we told you they sucked, but
Yeah.
that's just my Husker PTSD. Game MVPs.
Yes.
Just going to throw this scroller across the bottom. These were the MVPs that everybody picked. Joey being the outlier with an interesting pick. I like the pick though, because I think I understand where you're coming from. For me, it was Isaac Gifford. I'll just go ahead and just say why, because it seemed like when somebody didn't want to tackle a running back, he did. He had double-digit tackles. It was the first time somebody for the Nebraska defense had double-digit tackles this season. So for me, it was Isaac Gifford. Three of you said Dylan Raiola, Levi, Scott, and Jake. So I'm guessing it's for a lot of the same reasons that I just mentioned a little bit ago.
I did say Satterfield was the MVP. And
you did. This as a
I did.
secondary. Yeah, you did.
I said besides Dylan.
He's okay. And,
Hey, it was his best call. Like, I know you hate Satterfield, and
I don't
and
hate
I don't.
Satterfield.
I mean,
stop it. I don't.
I did
I
a long time ago.
No,
it was
kinda
his
like
best. I mean, it was his best call game, and besides that, I think it was 3rd and 1 and he didn't run it. And him and my friend looked at me, he's like, freaking Satterfield, right? I'm like, hey, that's like the worst call he's made all game.
Yeah.
And then it was 4th and 3 and we went for it, we didn't get it. But I think that was his best call game yet.
I'll tell on myself here, and the fact that after Dylan threw that pass that got intercepted and they overturned it, or they didn't overturn it and the call stood, I looked at my wife. I said, what the heck was he called? Why didn't he call that there? You're in your shadow of your own goalpost. Just run it out of there. And she looks at me and she says what everybody always says when somebody criticizes a call, right? Well, if it would have worked, you would have said it was the greatest play ever. And I'm like, yeah, dang it. I hate it when you're right, but you're right. So, Dylan Raiola, guys, what grabbed your other than just watching him play? Was there a specific moment, specific time that just said, yeah, this guy's the most valuable player on the field for you? Go ahead, Levi.
Honestly, I think just his game sense is just fun. I know everybody makes the comparison between him and Mahomes, but I really think he's going to prove that he's not Mahomes.
Yeah.
He's going to prove he's in a league of his own, and just all around play was just phenomenal. The way he gets that ball to his receivers, his arm is just, he's a talented dude.
Yeah. Good one. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a culmination of what we've described so far. My mentioning of like, I can't really have a beautiful interception, but it kind of was. It was like, all right, well, if you're going to throw an interception, at least make it look like that, where your guy has an opportunity to fight for it.
Yeah.
Because like, that 50-50 ball with Ramir last week where it was I ended up with the ball and now I'm in the end zone. Like that was a less than ideal situation for a quarterback. And we just ended up on the right side of that. And so we just kind of got that karma the other side this time. And then just having like kind of what we said earlier. I like the fact that we have a quarterback that can manage a game, that when he throws a ball, I don't get the like, oh gosh, where is this going? And then just like, it's also interesting that like we don't have a running quarterback, but I don't feel like he is a dead weight in the pocket.
He's sneaky.
He can scoot out and he can use his legs. I mean, I heard some what was it? Didn't he like play like no, I was thinking of somebody else. Sorry, totally got that mixed up. He can move. He can move his legs. He's just a dynamic quarterback. He provides us something that I don't think that in my lifetime I've been able to witness, which is just a true pocket presence quarterback who can do it all. So we'll see. It's still only game 3. We haven't even gotten to the Big Ten slate of things yet, but I just have to give it to Dylan Raiola. I do have to say really quick that I do love the fact that it's actually pretty difficult to pick MVPs every single week because our team is so complementary to each other.
Yeah.
Our defense is playing collectively lights out, game in, game out. Our offense is playing collectively lights out. Like, we didn't really see much of Dante Dowdell this week. That kind of surprised me, but it's because I think our offense is just so complementary. We don't necessarily need that one shining star. They're all diamonds,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Dylan Raiola's got my vote.
Go ahead, Jake.
Just kind of I was saying earlier about Dylan is that it's not stressful and scary like when he throws the ball. Right. And I can't remember the last time. Even like Tommy Armstrong, like really good dude, pretty good quarterback, but even he had his multiple balls a game where he would throw a ball and we're like, oh shit, here we go, And so he gives a lot of peace. And also like Carter Nelson, like I'm pretty sure Steve Sipple like lost his mind when he got that touchdown because he's been talking about Carter Nelson as like the greatest player ever, which he's good. I was super excited to see him get one. I thought Dylan got 3 touchdown passes, but I guess it was only 2 because we're looking at the stats there.
Yeah, it's only 2. Yeah,
I'm really excited to see him develop throughout the season. Him not running as well is my favorite part about this offense. How many years has it been since we have a scramble running quarterback? Was it Tanner Lee? Was that the last time we've had a sit in the pocket? That was rough. I'm just super excited to see a quarterback that actually like does check downs, like tries to get to ball, like tries to get the ball to his playmakers. Like he's not perfect, no, but he's also 19 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to see him play like against a Big Ten team on Friday. And I'm just super stoked. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Good one. All right, TJ. You have got Mr. Emmett Johnson.
Yeah. So I'll preface with the fact I don't have like an analytical mind or a good eye for football. So when I'm watching it, I have a hard time kind of following what's going on.
Right.
But one player stood out to me predominantly in the first half, but throughout the whole game was Emmett Johnson. I watched him break so many defenders' ankles.
Yeah.
He was just on fire every time he got the ball. And looking through the stats this morning, he had the most yards out of any player on the field cumulatively. He had 100% catch rate. He was averaging 14 yards receiving, 12 yards rushing.
Yep.
Dude was a guaranteed first down. Like every time he got hold of the ball, he made a meaningful push for Nebraska, and he was instrumental in most of our touchdown drives. He was just on fire. Every time I was throughout the game, I had my notes app up, and whenever there was a meaningful play, I would take down what time it was on the game clock and who were the players involved in the meaningful play, at least whoever I could figure out. And most of my notes were Johnson.
Okay, Joey, you have Heinrich Harburg as your MVP.
So let me preface this. I know that objectively, Harburg would never be an MVP, but it's mostly grit for why I picked him, because this guy has been in the QB depth chart for how long? A couple years now, 2, 3 years, 4. I don't know. He's been here a while. I know that, but Nebraska guy, stand-up dude, and then gets thrown into an absolutely shitty situation last year with Jeff Sims. Just has to start, and he freaking made the best of what he could do. Was he an absolutely amazing quarterback? No. Was he 4 or 5 star? No. But he was great. So
Sure.
you fast forward to this year now in the first game and at UTEP with UTEP, and I look over on the field and I see freaking Heinrich just strolling out there, getting on a play with Raiola, and I'm like, what are they doing? And I'm like, this guy just seems really happy to be there, and he's just like
ultimate teammate.
ultimate teammate. Like, despite the fact that we found our guy and he got put lower in the depth chart, like, he's not mad about that. He's happy, like, that that Rule is recognizing his talents outside of the QB, outside of the QB position, and he's utilizing those talents. And
good point.
Those 8 yards, they were 8 yards, but that was freaking like
He's got some
neato.
footwork.
That was neato. But also, like, part of it is the commentators made me really happy. They were like all with it. They were like, is that Heinrich Harburg?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, Heinrich Harburg's on the field. Let's go.
Yeah.
He's a dynamic athlete.
He's a
Yeah,
very
he is.
dynamic athlete.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
And
God,
he
it's Jason
is.
Bourne.
He is. No, I agree. I agree. Just I think one of the most valuable things we got to witness was Heinrich getting a chance to just play meaningful snaps. I love it. I love it. He was such a
warrior last year. For sure.
Yeah, and it was so painful to watch last year offensively, and it just stunk that it all had to fall on his shoulders. It was kind of like he was the reason why we won a lot of games, and he was the reason why we lost a lot of games, and it was just an unfortunate yin and yang last year with him. And so getting him out on the field, I know it was said in one of the press conferences where Rule said he came up to him and was just like, coach, just can I get on the field anywhere? I don't care where. If you want me as a tight end, I'll be a tight end. If you want me, like, just get me on the field somewhere. Special teams, I don't care.
If I can help my team win.
Let me help this team win. And so seeing that is just it's indicative of a good culture we got going right now, and I love it.
Yep, I'm with you. I am with you. And speaking of culture, as you folks can see, I'm not wearing headphones tonight. Trying to accommodate 6 microphones. I was unable to figure out how to accommodate 6 headphones at this point. So what you're about to witness is Coach BA's breakdown. Now, luckily, I was smart enough to watch these video clips ahead of time because I will not be able to hear them. So this is Carter Nelson's touchdown in the first quarter, and then Buford's pass defense that he did at the end of that long opening drive for
Coach
UTEP.
BA breakdown.
So yeah, Coach BA's breakdown is brought to you by the BA Coaches Show. That's the name of his YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed. You can also catch him every Monday morning at 8 a.m. on the Sharp and Handley show on 1620 The Zone. Our boy BA is on the radio, guys. How cool is that? We know a radio dude now. So I'd like to think we had a little something to do with it, but really it's because he's as good at breaking down video as anybody. So here we go.
All right, Generation Red, I got to show you this one. You guys already know what this play is, but I got to show you why I was so happy with the play call on this one. We took advantage of UNI being a spot drop team as opposed to a match team for a lot of the points, and can explain what that maybe means. I'm going to do a whole separate video on the BA Coaches Show this week explaining match pattern just because Coach Rule talked about it this week. But not to get too far into it, you're going to see Carter Nelson touchdown here. I was very happy with Marcus Satterfield on this drive, the first drive of the game. So as we can see, we got the spot dropping, okay? So this guy, this nickel corner right here is covering this area. He's covering an area. This guy right here is supposed to be covering an area, okay? Marcus Satterfield did a very good job covering that, like exploiting that a bit, because look at that big old gap in the defense. Because look, this guy's just sitting. He's just sitting. That's something I was very happy with. We took advantage of, and we have the whole middle of the field open. The whole middle of the field. It's something I would love to point out just because, hey, this is the kind of stuff that I geek out over sometimes. Remember last week when we talked about the whole pick 6 from Tommy Hill and why would anyone keep dropping? Because there was no push on the strong safety vertically. Ha! We see it. It comes back. Nebraska takes advantage and does this. We got the strong safety over the top. Theoretically, he's not going to end up being that far back. But look, we push vertically. We're pushing vertically here for the free safety, and we're pushing vertically here. Just pushing vertically keeps those safeties dropping. So look at that window. And now look, we can't even see the free safety, and the strong safety's, 10 yards off? 10 yards off. Think about that. Think about it. He's 10 yards away from the guy with the ball. And that only happens because we have Jamal Banks. I think that's Jamal Banks. Pushing. That's beautiful. Carter Nelson stays up on his feet. I want you guys to just look at that. So look, we see it. This guy's going to drop right here. We got the empty set, so this guy's going to come cover towards the field side. I think generally he would probably take his zone right here, but since we're in empty, he's going to the strong side, is my guess. Without knowing Northern Iowa's play call, it's hard for me to say exactly, so maybe take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, but that's why I believe he went to the field strong side, if that makes sense, and just gives a huge window for a touchdown. Huge window. That's what I love to see. Hopefully, Generation Red and the fans, hopefully you guys love seeing that sort of thing, because that is the type of stuff that I geek out over sometimes. So I hope that you enjoyed seeing this play and seeing some of those intricacies. Boom. And there we go. Big old touchdown, baby.
And the thing, he's going to be putting on more weight.
All right, we're back.
And become like a tight end.
Yeah.
Yes. I
Gotta
can't
love
wait.
it.
Something
Can't wait.
something interesting I actually noticed when we were at the game yesterday is the play before that play.
Yeah.
Another pass to Nelson. He had cut across the middle right at the line of scrimmage, and they threw the pass right to him. We had 3 of the linemen up in front of him, providing a nice block. And I'm pretty sure he probably would have broken out and gotten the touchdown if it wasn't for the middle ref being in the way and him
Yeah.
bumping into the ref.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So we could have technically
Your
had our
notes are
first
coming in
touchdown a
clutch.
play earlier if it wasn't for that dang ref being in the way. Somehow, even when they aren't calling flags on us, they're still finding ways to screw us over.
Yeah,
Damn refs.
no kidding. You mentioned, Jake, earlier that you thought that Dylan had 3 touchdown passes. One of the touchdowns on the ground was Ja'Cory Barney.
Okay.
But it wasn't a touch pass forward. It was a reverse behind. So it was technically a run. So the second play from Coach BA is Marquise Buford Jr.'s defense of a pass into the end zone. So let's take a look at that.
All right, guys, you're going to have to forgive me a little bit for the camera on this. I was not able to get like a good screen recording, so sorry for that. But I think you guys will like seeing this anyway. This is what I call the Tony White special on third down. Obviously, this is still a game here. Northern Iowa had a 10-minute drive going. It's 3rd and 5. The defense bent, but it did not break, and this is a Tony White special. Completely manned up, and we are bringing pressure. No help over the top. This is very much what Tony White likes to do in these goal line situations. First thing I want to point out, Isaac Gifford showed his senior leadership here. This is why he is one of the leaders of the defense. He did a fantastic job. Obviously, once they transition to the empty set, Gifford's normally not going to be that outside guy. Gifford's not going to be the guy out on an island. But Gifford was able to read the personnel pretty good and realize that's the running back coming in. They shifted out here. So now we got our empty set. And now we got Buford in the slot, which was 100% the right move, especially if we're going to be manned up. We're going to be manned up on top of each other. Hey, we got that stagger, which I like. I hate everyone being on the same level. We got the stagger just like I wanted. Got 2 defenders basically right at the sticks, keep everything in front of them. So we're here. This is exactly what I want to see. We're manned up completely. You're going to see us switching these things around paid off big time. So we're bringing pressure, and hey, I got to point this out. Big boy going QB spy, not going to give that up. But he throws it, and Buford does a fantastic job. I know the camera work isn't great on this, so I apologize for that. But he does a great job. He's pressed up. He doesn't really jam him at the line, but hey, that's okay. That's okay. That wasn't the call on that, I'd say, because he didn't even attempt it. So they didn't want to jam. He just wants to run with him. And I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. He does a great job staying with him, hip to hip, hip to hip. And he puts his arms up right at the right time. It was beautiful. And it's everything I wanted to see from that play. That's the Tony White special, in my opinion. The Tony White special, bringing heat at the goal line. Not the goal line, but in the red zone, completely manned up. Put your boy out on an island. Love to see it.
Beautiful.
Yes,
Beautiful.
indeed. Beautiful. See, what the rest of you don't know is as we're doing these, we can hear each other and talk to each other here in the studio, but you can't hear us. So, yeah, that's always fun because I'm sitting here going, why does it say 13 seconds, but the video is 2.5 minutes long? Well, because he's breaking down a 13-second clip and it's taking him 2 minutes to do that. So, oh, hey, there he is. He's taping the podcast right now. Hey, can't wait for the new show to come out there, Chester. Tell Brian hi for me while you're taping the podcast. Make sure you let him know that you're not paying full attention to what's going on your show, and instead you're watching ours. Yeah. So you guys ready to take a look forward to Illinois?
Yep.
Take a few minutes to do that. So here's our Illinois preview. I have literally done. You've got some stats up there, Scott? Is there some things comparable that Illinois does on offense and defense that we need to be watching out for as far as the statistics are concerned?
Well, when I'm looking at the stats, honestly, we're pretty even shot. Like, hold on, let me get back to it real quick. I had screenshots and then I realized I did not take an equal screenshot of a stat line that I specifically wanted to see. Yeah, I mean, Dylan Raiola and Luke Altmaier are pretty much even. Altmaier has one more touchdown pass than Dylan, and Dylan has one interception where Altmaier does not have an interception. When looking at the run game, collectively, they have 460 yards of total rushing offense, and we have 514. And then looking at the pass game, I mean, we're basically the same, 750 and one slide over, 676. I mean, we are comparable offensively, statistically. Like statistically, you can look at our offensive productivity and it's pretty even. Same thing with the defense. I mean, Brett Bialema has got a good salty defense.
Yeah.
So really, if there's any sort of even matchup, you've got an experienced guy in Luke Altmaier, who's had multiple seasons of experience under his belt now. You've got freshman Dylan Raiola, quarterback phenom. It's going to be an interesting combination. How does our defense, salt up? We gotta lock things down. We gotta play a better game this week than we did against NIU. And then offensively, are we going to be able to limit mistakes? Is when we're looking at these stat lines, really, like this is a perfect 1-to-1 matchup. Like their talent that they've been playing up against, you could argue is a little bit worse than what we've played, but I would say it's honestly probably pretty even. Illinois has not played terrible teams, but they played Kansas. I mean, Kansas is kind of a little bit reeling right now, but they're not a bad team. And Central Michigan has always given Power 5, well now Power 4 schools a handful every single time they play. So just looking at the stat lines, I'd say that the one thing that we should pay the most attention to is going to be their quarterback proficiency. Luke Altmaier seems to have his poop in a group. Because when I'm looking at his stats, he's got basically a 70% completion percentage, which is great. He averages, well, I guess it doesn't really matter about the average, but having a 70% completion percentage with no interceptions with roughly the same amount of yardage that Dylan Raiola has is definitely cause for concern. So we need to pay attention to that. And Brett Bialema, he's going to want to run the ball. He's going to want to run the ball a little bit more than what they've been doing thus far. And I have a feeling it's going to be a very run heavy game. So
Sure.
just have to be on the lookout for that.
I knew that was coming. He was working that one up. I could hear it. Sorry about that, folks. I'll have to try to figure out. Figure out how to.
I know.
edit
I
that
say
one out.
by Lima on purpose.
By Lima.
Brett by Lima.
By Lima.
I think it was the
pig farmer.
corn cat. The corn
Cobcast?
cob, the cobcast.
Yep.
May it
By
rest in
Lima.
peace. That's what they would say, and it
Cobcast.
it is stuck in my head now. I can't
that's
say
funny.
Belima
Yeah,
or
the big red
bulimia or whatever.
R.I.P.
Big red cobcast.
Yeah,
Big red cobcast.
That's it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Big
Didn't
red
they have the Killigans that made their song?
Yeah.
Just like Scarlet and the Cream. Yeah.
Yep. Rest in
Yep,
peace,
yep.
fellas.
So yeah, we missed that.
I mean,
show.
they're not dead. But
They're not dead.
podcast
They're
is
just
dead.
not podcasting.
They're dead to me.
Ryan's probably watching us right now, chomping on some gummies, and happy he doesn't have to prep for a podcast anymore. I
No,
was just looking at some stats on CFB stats. I struggle trying to find.
trying to look
total-
for conference.
Yeah, I'm checking for conference here. Let's
Total.
see.
Okay, so
There we go. Conferences. Big Ten Conference. This is fantastic podcasting, folks. Total defense. Nebraska is ranked 5th. Illinois is ranked 8th. So they're pretty close.
yep.
I think they're about the same for total offense as well, 5th and 8th. So they're very, very, very close.
Yep.
Two teams that play tough brand of football. I would probably give the edge to Dylan because I think he's right at 74% completion rate on
I
the
think that's
season.
what I saw this morning.
That he was like 70 in the game against Colorado. He was like
73.
73. Okay.
Yep.
So they're very, very similar.
And we could count that interception as it's like a half a completion.
Yeah.
I mean, we thought that Lloyd came down with the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, we were booing.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I know you were. I can hear it. I'm like,
From the 600 level, I can clearly see that he caught the ball.
Yeah. Clear up
You
there.
know,
You
I mean,
knew
clear
it.
as
It was
day.
obvious.
I'm squinting at the jumbotron to try and
The
see the
play
ball.
was going away from us. We
Yeah.
couldn't see the football at all. But as
Yeah.
far
It
as
looked like he
we were
caught it.
concerned, it was absolutely a completion.
I mean, the second they threw that up on the jumbotron, the whole stadium erupted.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
on TV too.
They
It
knew.
was crazy.
They knew.
Even- Oh, that.
But a lot of the media, though,
it was
I've
hard to
been listening-
overturn.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. There
If
was
they
no
would've-
indisputable proof.
If they would have called it a catch and then review it as an interception, it probably would have stood as a catch.
Yeah.
It's just because of the call in the field, they need, like Dad was saying, you need undisputable evidence to overturn it. And unfortunately, it really was just kind of like
Sure.
they both fumbled the
Well,
ball
let's
as they were
take a look
going
at it
down,
then.
and then they both had it in a pile of two people.
So Nebraska's rushing defense is number 6 in the conference, whereas Illinois is number 14. So there's
Okay.
possibly maybe
A discrepancy.
Dante Dowdell and
There's the game plan right there.
Mhm.
and Mr. Emmett Johnson.
I think it is skewed though that if you just take the average performance of the first game and the third game and then you
Sure.
extrapolate that to the second game and you get rid of the fact that Colorado could not
Mm-hmm.
they could not run anything.
They've got a good passing defense. They're
It-
6th in passing defense, and Nebraska's 11th
Yeah.
in the conference.
It's seriously like it's a great matchup. It's a
great
very
matchup.
complimentary
Last year I
matchup.
said they
Mhm.
sucked balls, is what I said for this game. They don't suck balls this year.
No.
I mean, we thought they were going to. Everyone I listened to about Illinois this year said that they were going to be terrible.
yeah.
And I'm just
So
like,
they said
I
the
don't
same
know.
about Purdue, and until
I mean,
yesterday when
they're
they got
terrible
boat
yesterday.
race,
Yeah.
they looked actually.
They also
capable.
got the unfortunate, like, you're either going to get Notre Dame's best game or worst game. And unfortunately, they got their best
It was
game.
their
They got- we
best
just
Notre
got
Dame
beat
could have
by NIU.
spiraled.
Probably were not happy they got beat by Northern Illinois because
No.
then they were pissed.
Yes. Like,
Yeah.
were they going to spiral or were they going to use that to galvanize? And
When we
clearly,
saw-
they used it to galvanize.
We were
Yeah.
looking at the jumbotron, and when we saw that they were, I think Notre Dame's up 35-0
Yep.
in like the third quarter, we're like, oh my God. I'm like, someone called 911. There's a murder happening in West Lafayette. I'm like, jeez.
So we've got some score predictions running across the bottom of the screen there. Like I said, this was going to be a short preview. Levi, you've got 24-7. How do you see the game going? What do you think? You think Dylan throws for a bunch of touchdowns, or you think we're going to run more, pass more? What do you think?
I feel like he's going to throw a lot of touchdowns. I'm going to change that 7. I'm going to up it to I'll go with a 10.
24-10.
Yeah.
Okay. Joey, you got 21-10.
I just said that's the safest one because, honestly, the most painfully average scoring football game is a 21-10.
Mhm.
That is the baseline for scores. So that's kind of what I picked.
Nice.
If it's below that, it's trash. You know about the art of scoreagami, Scott?
Yep.
Mhm. Yes, I'm a very, very big fan of that.
Okay.
Yep. It is a very average score. 21-10 is.
21 is as average as get. Nebraska is favored by 8.5 at this point. I imagine that line will change as the week goes on. TJ, you've got 28-21.
Yeah, so
See a little bit of
I
a
did no
defensive
research
struggle.
into Illinois before this and just kind of picked it based on guessing that we'd be even teams. And lo and behold, we are kind of even teams. So I just went, if we trade touchdowns back and forth, but Nebraska can eke out one more over them, I think we're looking at a 28-21 game.
I have been sitting here this whole time with a completely jacked up collar, and none of you people told me on camera with a
it sounds
jacked
like
up
Ted
collar.
Lasso.
I didn't notice it.
Well, it's because I have this ginormous microphone in front of me. So
That's why I
that
didn't say
probably
anything.
helped.
I didn't say anything.
To be fair,
so I was like,
the texture of your shirt,
microphone
it all kind of blends together.
Yeah, doesn't look
So
bad, I guess. So, Scott, you've got 28-17.
Yeah, I got 28-17. I think it's going to be a close game for the majority of the game. I just don't see it going really any other way. The only other way that I could see it going is Nebraska goes up big, and then we run into a second half blunder again, where it looks like Illinois is starting to claw its way back. But they just never end up getting what they need to win the game. But I think it's more likely just going to be a close game for the first 3 quarters, and then Nebraska pulls away in the fourth quarter. I have a feeling it's probably 14-10 Nebraska going into halftime, and then it's 17-10 Illinois going into the fourth quarter, and then Nebraska pulls away in the near the end of the game. And Alvano gets did I do 28 or did I do 27?
I think you said 28.
Okay, well then Alvano doesn't do
28.
anything.
So, yeah, he doesn't kick shit. So, Jake, you've got 35-17. One more touchdown than Scott. You see a little different
They
action going into the
simply
second
can't
half.
hang with our stuff. Okay, we just wake up in the morning and we piss excellence. I mean, as the great Ricky Bobby has said. As someone that predicted in the first game we would win 69-0, the second game, I'm like, they don't deserve a program. So 56-0. I actually thought legitimately, I think I predicted 52-10 yesterday. So I mean, I was happy with 34-3. I think that the offense gets on them early. In the first half, I saw a stat that it was in the first half we're outscoring opponents. We're outscoring teams 70 something to 12.
Yeah.
And so I think we get up early. I just want to see some offense in the second half. Again, boring rule football. I don't need to see, us score 20 points in the second half. But if we get up early, the defense can I don't know if Illinois is going to be able to handle our defense. And that's going to be the true test. In the first half, if they're struggling at all, I'm just really, so.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
I can see that. I've got 27-14. I'm kind of in that. This is going to be a defensive struggle for the first half. I could see very easily that we've got a 10-10 halftime score. And then Nebraska just figures it out in the second half and puts 17 points on them, lets them get one more, and that's it. And but yeah, I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm nervous about this game because I'm not sure. Have they been holding back? Has Nebraska been holding back what they actually can do on offense in the second half? Are they playing, let's maintain, let's stay healthy, and these teams that we know we're not in trouble against. He said it at the end of Colorado, and he said it after this game. The game was not in jeopardy. We had the game under control. I was not worried about losing the game. So, yeah, it's boring football. But when it comes nut cutting time, as Schmitty likes to say on Hail Varsity, and it really gets tense and it gets tight, how aggressive are we going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two, is Dylan going to stay that calm, cool customer? That's where I see the 27 points. A little bit less than what we're averaging. We're averaging 34 a game right now, but we're averaging giving up less than 7. So I could see giving up 14 pretty easily. That's it. That's it.
Is it wrong? That's the most confident I've been as a Nebraska fan going into a game in like 8-9 years. I mean, I don't think we're gonna lose. You know,
No,
and, like,
I don't
we all
think
don't think we're gonna lose. But I think Dylan being in the environment against Colorado, I think to see him stay poised against in that environment where the crowd is just on them. I'm very interested to see. I probably should, like, I ride on the high emotional highs as a Nebraska fan, and I also live in the valley of the lows,
The valley of the shadow of death.
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure my wife doesn't like that. Last year, I threw my phone at the wall. I mean, it didn't hurt the wall or anything. I didn't throw it, chuck it, but I mean, it's like we're not gonna get to 6 wins, and I'm just like, so yeah. I mean, I think. I'm hoping we just kick the shit out of them. That's what I hope for. So.
That'd be pretty sick.
That'd be pretty awesome.
If we kick the crap out of Illinois,
this is the year.
It is like, I mean, yeah, there's like, okay, then we stand a very, very good chance of having double-digit wins.
Yeah.
I mean, because Illinois is the epitome of Big Ten football. So if we can lay the wood against Illinois, then I have no doubt in my mind that we can boat race everybody else that would have been the considered, the now dead Big Ten West.
RIP.
RIP. And I think that means we compete. We compete really, really well for the rest of the year. So I'm just excited to see how these guys play under the lights on a Friday night. Top 25 showdown against the Brett Bielema, Illinois Fighting Illini. And so we're gonna get a real feel for what the rest of the season's gonna look like this Friday, and I cannot be any more excited. This is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I'm pretty jazzed about this one too. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this team does with this new look offense does against a Big Ten defense. I'd be really curious to see what kind of a game plan does Satterfield put together. Has he been just throwing stuff against the wall against some of these early teams? Because like Rule said, he's treated this like the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
You test a lot of stuff in the preseason. So I'll be curious to see where do we go and how does it look. And I'm really looking forward to being able to do another episode where we're saying we're 4-0 for the first time since 2016.
Oh my God.
And that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think my heart stopped just there.
Knock on wood. I think you'll be okay. You'll be okay. Don't keel over in my studio. There might be some liability issues there. So follow info. I know Tim, do you have any reason why our audience would want to follow you?
Probably not. I don't do much with my stuff right now. Okay. So
I know, Levi, you do some streaming, don't you? Do you have a Twitch?
You can find me at Baskin Live on Twitch. I stream a lot of gaming. Lately, I've been doing a lot of coding streams. So if you're into tech stuff and or if you're not and you want to lose your head, come watch me over there.
Okay. All right. Joey, you got any place you need folks to follow you?
Nope.
And Scott, you're on Twitter? Not yet, right?
No, never.
Right. Jake,
at Texas Toast 54, I think last time I checked. It's only sports, no politics, nothing. I've tried to create a safe space for all of us Cornhusker fans.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do bitch and complain about stadium upgrades and stuff like that, but besides that. So
all right. Well, you can follow the show at Gen Red Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Generation Red on your favorite podcast app. The audio for this show should drop by 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. tomorrow. genredpod@gmail.com is our email address. If you want to send us a message, you can go visit our website at genredpod.com, where you can watch all of our past videos and listen to all of our past shows, including the shows that were in from 2021 before we actually started live streaming. So thank you, Jake. Thank you, Levi, TJ, Joey, Scott, of course, for being in the studio tonight and doing something completely different. This has been an awful lot of fun. And Jake, I'm so glad you were in town. I'm so glad you decided today to come in here and be a part of this, because it's made it that much more fun. Yes, all these boys in here, they're my boys, but you're also family.
Oh, thank you.
So just keep that in mind. That
this place is awesome, by the way.
You're always welcome back.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
Anyway, with that, he's Scott. I'm Ken. Together we're Generation Red, and we are here to chronicle Nebraska's inevitable return to greatness, one podcast at a time, because there is absolutely no place like Nebraska.
And Iowa's corn sucks more than well-off media's video production.
Oh man! Wow, that is cold.
Oh yeah, that's the coldest.
That's a good one.
That was really good. That was
an
really
AC
good.
repair if that one.
Garbage.
Okay. Yeah, poor. Yeah,
Oh,
Tim's
man.
gone. We've taken Tim out. So anyway,
TJ.exe has stopped working.
yes.
Oh man.
God bless. Go Big Red, and we'll see you all next week.
Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.